I'm retro. Let's get it. We in the chop shop, we live in the chop shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, we live in the chop shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the chop shop. Yeah, it's lit in the chop shop. Turn your dials up in the drop top. They ain't based to debate, but they keep it fact straight. Going 30 for 30, let's do a first take on Facebook Live from 12 to 2. Rob Hatter and Jim Hicks going back and forth like Carter Ray and Skip Bayless and Stephen Smith. From on the court, off the court, straight to the field. Not a man that steals, but I made it steal. To the octagon where I fight to kill. We go face to face, then you write your will. I don't play tennis, but I bring the racket. I'm on the floor, I attack the basket. Put you in the casket when I'm overlapping. Never showing mercy, cause I'm always snapping. Never showing mercy when I'm in the arena. Step into the ring, he hit me as I beat him. Step into the court, I'm never backing down. Killing competition, I'm smacking down. Let me get back to the other stuff at the chop shop, cause they cutting up. It's retro coming to you live to the chop shop. Now let's turn it up. Yeah, we in the chop shop, man. Shout out to Jim Hicks and Rob Hatter. You can catch the chop shop live from 12 to 2 on Facebook Live. Let's get it. We in the chop shop, we live in the chop shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, we live in the chop shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the chop shop.
H-Town, what's up? You know what time it is. It's time for the best 120 minutes of your day. The Chop Shop, the nation's #1 urban sports talk show, and also your midday sports happy hour. Yours truly, Robert Hatter, alongside Jim Hicks, coming to you live from Houston, Texas, but we're broadcasting all over the world via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. It's a great Monday today. We got I'm gonna look and I'm gonna introduce my starting five today. And our starting five every day, the first 5 people that sign up and sign in to the Facebook and YouTube feeds, we recognize them every day. And today's starting 5 is from Facebook, Tyandra Holmes, from YouTube, Martin Vaughn, Facebook, Chris Charles, Facebook, Rodney Wells, and Facebook, Derek Johnson. YouTube, y'all got to put a clamp on that now, YouTube now. But it's a great weekend, man. Up and down. The Rockets are 1-1. With the Lakers. Got some interesting things happening in the NBA. And matter of fact, we got interesting things happening all over the sports spectrum. We got a special guest coming up at 1 o'clock. So make sure you tune in. Yeah, we got another college coach. It's on the Chop Shop today. And Jimmy, I was hearing about, we got some summer basketball news. You know, I see people tweeting, and maybe you can give us an insight on some summer basketball news that's going on, some moves that's being made. And I think it's interesting. This show here, I think you should take the time out. Jimmy, what? Tag, text, and tell your friends today. That's what I say today. Tag, text, and tell your friends today about the Chop Shop. And Jimmy, I know you got where you want to start today, man. It's just so much. I know you want to start with NBA, but who you want to start with?
Well, the first thing to start with is what we've seen happen in the games last night.
Okay.
Of course, Toronto Raptors. I'm concerned about Toronto and their loss to the Boston Celtics. The reason I'm concerned with them is because of the fact that, remember, if there's one player who got a really gotten a pass, and when I say player, I mean an all-star, and that was been Kyle Lowry. If you didn't know no better, it had turned into Van Fleet's team. And, and Siakam was still consistent in his role, but it looked like Van Fleet was the guy. And Siakam was next. And then, last night during the game, right, on yesterday, in Miami's last win over Toronto. Boston's last win over Toronto. During the closing minutes, I saw Kyle Lowry get into it with Ibaka. Did you see that happen?
No, I'm going to tell the truth. I didn't watch much, and I taped it. I was out doing some stuff, so I didn't watch it. Tell us about it.
So come to find out, Lowry was mad at the referee. So and that's how negative energy goes.
Lowry mad at the referee, right?
Lowry mad at the referee, but you're getting smashed. You follow me? You got good ass whoopings and you got bad ones. The good ones make you normally go home and go to bed. If you was a little boy, you ever got your ass whooped one time, you went home, you took a nap, got back up, hey, it's business as usual. Or you want to go, but it was that's the difference between some of the guys now. Kyle Lowry, he's from Philly, and guess what? He's built different, but we had Kyle Lowry in Houston. And Kyle Lowry's one of those players that never responded quite professionally whenever you attacked him, whenever you got on him, never criticized, whenever things ain't going as right. Remember, he thought he should have been the starter when he was in H-Town, which a lot of people do. Remember, that what led to the trade.
Yeah.
So Kyle Lowry gets into it, and this is the wrong time with Ibaka. Ibaka's a seasoned vet, and Kyle Lowry's a vet too.
When is the right time, Jimmy? You're supposed to. Hey, James got on Russ the other night.
And did Russ respond back? See, it's the thing. How you
Russ
respond
didn't say nothing.
back.
Russ just said.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That means that's the lead. That means if a guy getting on you, leader, take it. Y'all can deal with it in the locker room or at practice tomorrow, or you go knock on his door like Russ did and go to his room that night and say, man, let's talk about that, what you did to me. Then meanwhile, let's make the narrative. We're going to end up talking about how we can get better together. But that knock on the door from Russ, we don't know, but that has something to do with it. Man, let's get this straight. Where we at right now? You try to, so I'm looking at this and I think Toronto done. Boston is the better team. Boston would be, and you look at it, think about it. You're going to have Miami and either Toronto or Boston. You'd rather Miami and Boston. You know it's going to be some dogs out there. Nobody's going to quit. Nobody's going to run up under the house. You'd rather that. Remember I told you guys first series, you had rather seen Denver play the Clippers than Utah. And as we've seen 3 games in, that is one of the reasons why. It doesn't even matter what happened. The Clippers, Denver, I don't think they're 2 players short for beating this Clipper team. Maybe next year after, it's too easy for the Clippers to.
Jimmy, that's a lot of players, Jimmy. 2 players, Jimmy. 2 players is a lot of players.
2 players away.
That's a whole lot of players.
And don't get it twisted. Michael Porter, he's wet behind the ears at this time of the season. Michael Porter is promising, but you're going against the mental part
Jimmy,
of this
he was
stuff.
a lottery pick. He's supposed to be promising. See, our problem is we've been used to such mediocrity in our lottery picks. When one do good, we like, oh, he's promising. He's supposed to be promising. You know what I'm saying? For real, though. He's supposed to be. And Jimmy, the Clippers, I don't know if you know, the Clippers was one of the teams that passed on him twice. They passed on him twice. They picked, Jerome? They picked a couple of more guys before him. They passed, and I asked them why, and they told me personally, dude, if you saw his back, as many operations he done on his back, he looked like a 50-year-old man. You remember I told you this on the show. I came on the show because I was surprised that Clippers didn't take him. But evidently, He got some. He been to Wakanda and got some and got some of that juice from Wakanda. And that young kid, he played well, had a nice little dunk. But Jamal Murray, Jimmy, what you got to say? Because y'all was bragging about him just a couple days ago now.
But I mean, absolutely. And Jamal Murray is playing with house money right now. He's playing with house money right now. I mean,
Jimmy, he's a max player.
He's playing with, for his expectations. Understand, 2 50-point games in the postseason. He's given nominal fans a reason, a valuable reason to want to watch Denver play. Yes. He has. You want to see what he? So he's playing with house money. Last night. He's playing against you're going opposite against the machine. The hands-on one of the top 2 or 3 favorites preseason to win the title. Remember, it was the Bucks, Clippers, Lakers, and that in no particular order based on what odds maker or what book that you checked on before the season started. So you're going against a team that that you are not expected to beat in a best of 7 series. Then on top of that, you already won a game. So 4-1 don't even look, it don't really look bad. As long as if you're putting up a fight like you put up last night. Last night was a winnable game for Denver, but the best team, you see the defense, how the defense turned up for the Clippers last night. Them dudes hit a cheat code on defense. I mean, they went to, and that's what they, and we're going to have a college coach that's going to come, a career, a legend is going to come on. And that's one of the things we'll get him to explain to some of you basketball aficionados, understanding how playing hard, defending, getting turnovers, that stuff gets contagious. I'm telling you, just like on the opposite end.
Jimmy, you said contagious? Watch a player at that. Jimmy, you said contagious?
Yeah. It's contagious. Because if I see you down on that floor getting out and you get a steal, then the next one come my way, I'm getting on that floor. Next guy, he getting on the floor. And then now it's like it becomes like, yeah, because you see immediate results.
Jimmy, I got a question. I'm glad we're going to talk about this with Coach. Why did Doc Rivers had to call a timeout for them to do it? They was down 7. He went in the timeout and said, hey, man, hey. Well, I don't know what he told them. I can call and find out. But he had to, and Patrick Beverly came out and made 2 of them. They need to call the police on Patrick Beverly because he just mugged 2 people in a row. And that set the tone. Okay, now I see what you're saying. Now that set the tone. Then Paul came in. Now let me tell you something. I so eloquently got on Playoff P last week. I talked about him bad. I talked about Playoff P, and then I came back the next day because he said he was dealing with something. And me being around these players a whole lot, hey, y'all, like I said last night, Jimmy, I tweeted the other night. I don't tweet much. And guess what I said? I said, Russ is terrible. And then I thought about it. My conscience was bothering me. Then I came back and tweeted right after that, man, my bad. Russ might be going through something right now. Let me tell y'all something. I know these people got a lot of money, got all this in it. Let me tell y'all something. A lot of people are not setting well with being confined into one place. You got to think about it. These guys' clock usually tick this time of year. They are in the Maldives. They are in somewhere else. They all over the world. Their clocks, their body clocks are used. So guess what? You got guys with all of these resources, but they can't use them. They got to sit and be confined. Hold up, just like everybody else. But I'm finding out the more I'm talking to people. Look, it's even the coach from Denver even came out, Jimmy, and said, man, they let the players bring their wives, but don't let the coaches bring their wives and loved ones. This is a coach. Malone came out. He didn't tweet it. He came out in the press conference. Guess what, Jimmy? The coaches are allowed up to 10 people now. Closed mouth never get fed.
No. The staff.
The staff.
The staff.
The coaches is the staff. Staff. Coaches.
So I'm just trying to make sure the whole staff as a whole, 10 people.
Because that wasn't fair. I never forget, because I had mentioned I was going to take, as a friend of mine wanted to go to the bubble. So I was going to take him to the bubble. And then I found out, Sam told me, he said, Rob, they ain't letting the coaches. But guess what? I don't want to go now. Because guess what's going to happen, Jimmy? Let's say some of these coaches now, Mike Malone. Malone might be gone in a day or two. His family have to come in and quarantine for 7 days. And Jimmy, the coach's family got to go to one city, and all of them had to fly in on the same plane. They got to go to one city, they got to congregate in one city, and all of them got to get on the same private plane and bring them there. It's a hell of a logistic nightmare for this to happen. But I mean, but back to what I was saying, these people are really. I know y'all see them playing. I know they like gladiators in this stadium. I love that movie Gladiator. Do I entertain? Are you entertained? But man, these people going through some stuff, man. And I'll share that a little bit with you later. But what else you got, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at the game I was looking through, and Lou Will last night showed up big. And if you put it like this, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why it was big last night. It was one game at a time. One thing about it, people get real amnesia in the media. And you see, and I'll explain to you what I mean shortly. But in this game last night, you could have swore it certainly felt like Lou Will had much more than 10 points. You know why? Every one of his baskets were in key points of the game, whereas it basically implanted within your memory. He only had 10 points last night. It felt like he had 22, 23, but every bucket was punctuated.
I got a question for you. He averages almost 19 points a game, and you are happy that he hit 10 points? That what you telling me?
No, understand. Remember, you're the plus or minus guy. Remember that's one of the things you kind of lack.
Oh, you're plus 20,
You loosen up your stance, but you was a firm plus or minus guy.
Yeah.
He was a plus 20.
Yeah.
Nobody on that team was a plus 20 last night.
Nobody.
But I'm saying, in the pivotal point of the fourth quarter, every time he made a bucket, it's almost when it's like Denver needed that one stop.
Oh, yes.
To be able to just
That's a good point.
Every one of his buckets. So you can still he had a bad game offensively and shooting wise, 4 for 11 from the field. Understand? But he found a way to put his fingerprints on that win. Ditto for Harrell. I mean,
he missed. Jimmy, the man missed 5 and 1s. I'm not giving him. You can give him whatever you want. The man missed 5 late. Man, finish the layup, man. Quit trying to be cool. Finish the layup, please. Now keep you. I'm sorry, but finish the layups.
Well, and that bench, that we're talking about the bench, and from the Clippers is definitely came collectively, and so now if they'd have lost this game, then all of those other things would have been magnified. But they won that game. That's why sometimes you can have a bad game or a subpar game offensively and still find a way to do some little bitty things here and there in order to help get the win. You get the win, you live to see another day. And that's the thing that's good.
Hold up. He didn't have 3 rebounds.
Yeah, he only took 3 shots.
3 rebounds, and all 3 of them was the and ones he missed. I'm sorry. To me, it just looked like he missed a lot of them.
And speaking of what I want to speak on, I mentioned the defense of the Clippers a while ago.
Okay.
If you don't look at the stat sheet, don't it feel like the Clippers just had an abundance of advantages on turnovers versus steals against Denver? Look how many turnovers Denver had. The Clippers had more turnovers than Denver last night. It felt like, that's what I'm saying, when you turn it up in crunch time, that's one of those games, a perfect example of a game where the stat sheet does not define what happened. That game, you had to be evaluating. That's why a lot of times I understand. Stats do mean a lot. Stats are facts, but facts sometimes can be defined by something that happened to constitute how you derive and how they got there. You would have never believed that Clippers had 17 turnovers versus Denver only having 12, because it felt like Denver had 20 in the second half.
And
Two
Jimmy,
for
if you think about the feeling of the game, look, Denver was beating the brakes off of them. In that little in that 7 minute and when they were up by 7, I'll never forget. Doc called a timeout, and I knew he was about to call that timeout. You know, just watching so many of their games, and those guys. That's when Patrick Beverley turned into a tag dog. But guess what? What I'm finding out, and I think somebody else said this, it's just a Jimmy to me. This year is not no great teams. It's just a lot of good teams. You got guys that can turn it on. You got guys can turn it off, can turn it on and turn it off. And maybe it's a bit, it could be about what? The bubble. And see, that's what I keep forgetting about it that's why I'm gonna stop being too harsh on these players. Cause I know they professionals, but me, I'm gonna be a little less harsh on them. But I know, Jimmy, we're gonna take a break, Jimmy, and we're gonna come back. Me find you got something you can take us into Jimmy, I saw you need.
We come back. You make sure, guys, you hadn't done so already, on your Facebook feed, share the show to your timelines, to your friends real quick. Let's get this thing started. We come right back. We're gonna talk some Houston Rockets and go into the games that we missed over since seeing you guys last Thursday. They played twice. We come back with Houston Rocket talk, and we get into that Milwaukee-Miami series, Greek Freak, and the Bucks. What you guys think about that? Chop Shop, be right back.
Gives him, I don't want him to be one of those players. I call them, crowd lookers or bench lookers, where every time they do something bad, they want to look and see your facial, to see like, that's.
Yeah, I see a lot of kids do that.
A lot of kids,
their parents.
They're looking at their parents to see if they did okay. Do they get the thumbs up? Good job. Like no.
Kills their confidence.
Yeah, and I said because what ends up happening is you're creating a high-low player, meaning when he hits shots, he's high. When he's missing shots, he's low. When both of them are part of this game. You want your son, daughter to be here, because here means short-term memory loss. If I miss 5 shots, I'm gonna shoot the 6th one like this is my first shot. If he's used to seeing me every time he missed, then that means every miss brings him down and down and down, because he can visualize and see me do all this all the time. You know what I mean? So you just watch the game like you're just watching the game. There's no, like if he missed a good shot, no, that was a good shot. It was a good one. You just missed it. So he doesn't, you don't want your kid to think missing shots is something bad. No, that's part of the game. You're gonna miss shots. You're gonna make shots. You're gonna miss layups. You're gonna make crazy layups. You're gonna miss fast break layups. You're gonna miss an easy 3. You're gonna make a difficult 3. It's part of the game. The only thing that changes is the emotion. You miss 3 shots. Either your emotion is gonna make you miss another 12, or it's gonna turn it around and you're gonna ball out. So I try to tell them, listen, if I can give you the blueprint to the games, you're gonna have a game where you're 9-9 in the first half. 0-9 in the second half. To be honest, that's a great game. You're going to start off 0 for 10, and you're going to be 5 for 5 or 10 for 10 in the second half and hit the game winner. You're going to miss every shot, hit the game winner. You're going to make every shot, miss the game winner. That is the game.
Welcome back to the Chop Shop, your midday sports happy hour, the best 120 minutes of your day. What's in your cup right now on the Chop Shop? Of course, don't forget, we are indeed your midday sports happy hour. Streaming live right now, YouTube and Facebook. Shout out to all our guys over in YouTube land, rolling with us. Give us a thumbs up if you will right now. I see you guys out there. See Wesley Yates, Rick Timms, Jeremy Davis, Kim Jackson over there.
Yeah, Kim and
Chuck McCowan. Welcome back. I see you over in Facebook land. If you guys would in Facebook land, share the show to your timelines, to your friends real quick, to your hoop groups. And of course, Chris Charles hit us. We ask us, are we gonna make our return to our customary weekly NFL picks? The NFL season start Thursday evening, guys. And you remember, yes, we will do so on Thursday. Last year, I walked away with the crown.
No, you did not.
Jimmy, the throne last year.
Jimmy, I came back strong and tore your head off. Come on.
Oh, hell, you came back and got within one or tied it up, and I ended up winning the thing out. I won last year. I won the throne, and and this year you get the guys to give me say. No, the year before was incomplete. You didn't finish it out. And Rod Wells says
Chris Walker was in the way.
Hold on. You know what? I think we got. I'm wondering, do we possibly have a somewhat? I don't want to use the word troll, but I use it in jest, because I know he's not a troll. This is our guy, Rod Wells, but he finds a real convenient time.
Yes.
To always want to ask me about the baseball. The Major League Baseball. He finds it real convenient.
The Astros must have lost. Jimmy, quick question.
They lost 5 straight.
What? 5 straight? How can you lose 5 straight?
It's baseball.
Jimmy.
It's baseball. It happened.
Jimmy, hold up. They lost 5 straight since our last show?
Lost 5 straight.
Rod, that's not right, man. That's not right, Rod.
And guess what? And guess what? Lost 5 straight, and you still, them Houston Astros is still standing strong in second place.
Okay.
All right.
Oakland A's in first.
Astros lost 5 straight, and they still in second place, standing strong. Now, meanwhile, I'm just asking this for a friend. How about how the Yankees doing? What's the Yankees record right now?
I don't know. But I just want to know when. I just want to know.
I give you here because my friend. I'm asking for my friend. And their record is no better than the Astros. How about the Twins right now? What place is the Twins in? Matter of fact, what place is the Yankees in?
I don't like them no more when they losing like this. You know how I am. I don't like you no more when you're losing. I like winners, man. I don't like you no more when you lose.
In case you didn't know, the Minnesota Twins are 26-17. They're in 3rd place in the Central Division of in the AL. And of course, the Yankees are 21-20.
Okay. Right? Jimmy, how did we hold up? You can't let Rod Wells just hijack. We're supposed to be talking about the Rockets right now.
And I just want to get that out the way.
Okay.
That way it's fixed. And the Rockets are back in action today. Of course, they're in Oakland, 5-game series, and with them 5-game series with the Oakland A's, which game number 2 is today. And the Astros will turn this thing around. I think Bregman is expected to be reactivated today, or either today or tomorrow. I think today. Yeah, activated today.
I got one question for you, Tim. What place is Mookie in? Help me out. I'm asking for a friend.
Mookie don't. You mean baseball is a team sport? What do you mean? What place is Mookie in?
What place is Mookie Betts on?
Oh, you mean what team he play on?
Mookie Betts on?
He's on the Dodgers.
What place are they in?
All right, but we wasn't talking about the National League. We're talking American League right now. You didn't want to talk baseball anymore. We're talking American League. American League. The Dodgers National League, Dodgers in 1st place. We were talking American League. And the American League is proven it's wide open. Astros in good shape. Good shape. I understand the Yankees had injuries, and I know Stanton and the big fella, they've been on injury reserve. That ain't my problem. Y'all didn't care. You Yankees, you didn't care about our players. The Astros on the injury reserve. We've had disabled players all season long, including our ace. So we don't hear that stuff at all.
Mookie.
Hey, Dodgers doing all right. I'm gonna tell you one thing though. This playoffs National League, Dodgers don't have a cakewalk. I like that Atlanta team. That Atlanta Braves, I'm telling you, them.
You can't like
I'm
them.
telling
That's
you.
my other team. You can't like them. That's
No.
my other team.
Okay, so I'm just telling you. And guess what? You already know the history because either the Cubs or St. Louis go win, place, or show every year. Cubs in first place as well. I'm telling you.
Okay.
And the only thing about it that makes the Cubs and neutralizes them is that playing in their stadium in Wrigley Field, it ain't the same home court advantage no more because ain't no fans, you know. And then they get to the playoffs, they might do a bubble. They might do a bubble for baseball. Let's talk some Rockets, man. We talk baseball tomorrow.
Jimmy, just so people can know, when the Rockets start winning again, I'm gonna like them. They go to the playoffs, and we can go in there. I'm gonna like them again. I just told you I like winners. But come on, let's talk about my winners. My winners down there on Polk and Lamar Street. Let's talk about them winners.
And of course we are talking about the Rockets from, and since we've been gone, I think the Rockets have played twice, right?
1-1.
Sunday, Friday,
Yeah.
and they won one, lost one. They won the big game.
They won one and gave one away.
Well, I mean, Lakers can feel the same thing about giving one away. I mean, they gave one away as well.
They ain't that good.
I mean, the first game was a blowout, but that other one, the Rockets won. Now, here's what I'm looking at. I like Daniel House understand something. You're not winning the game. This Rockets bench was already of great concern to me all before the pandemic. That's when I made sure I motioned for you guys to pay attention to the bench, especially their productivity. Because at the time, we didn't know who was going to be that rotation coming in and whatnot on the bench. And because some guys that was in the rotation at that time didn't even opt to come on the trip. They gave up on the Rockets. They said, man, I ain't going. I'm a pandemic. I'm gonna stay home.
Who?
What's the kid name that came off the bench for the Rockets that they picked up and he was playing in the rotation and then he said, I'm not coming. And they replaced him with Covington.
I don't even remember.
Yes, some of you, Boom Boom Room. You guys help me out on that. Help me out in the Boom Boom Room. You guys, what's the kid name? You guys.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yes, yeah.
And he was in the rotation?
Yeah. I think he actually might have started a game or two this year earlier. And you guys, y'all help me out on that. Boom Boom Room, wake up now. Now, it'll come shortly. Now, Daniel House was the only player off the bench to score. The only player to score on Sunday night. He had 13 points. That's
Green
it.
Was a minus.
You and Rockets.
Jeff Green was a minus 26. Jeff Green.
And he had grown to be one of our more consistent players, right? And he had grown to be. We had just started to rely on him. Said, okay,
Cephalosha.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, you said young. He ain't young.
No, I mean he's not young. I'm talking about he's in a rotation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's Cephalosha. I couldn't remember the kid's name, but that's I was thinking was young for me.
Yeah. He didn't want to. Yeah, he might have family problems.
He didn't want to come.
Yeah.
He gave up. I mean, he was like, man, I ain't going.
So you're saying every player who don't come, that mean they give up on the team?
No. That didn't mean he give up, but then a lot of players did like Dwight Howard. They waited and took it all the way to the wire and said, man, you know what, man, I'm gonna cash out. He made it clear before whatever the rules is, I ain't going. Y'all go it on. I'm staying home. I ain't gonna risk it. So like Avery Bradley, we knew Avery Bradley wasn't coming in. What I say, we mean the Lakers, the general public.
I don't miss Cephalosha. I'm gonna tell you, I don't miss him at all. I miss him so. Listen to me. Think about that. It ain't but 450 NBA players, right? And I missed him so much, I didn't even know what the hell you was talking about. And I keep up with this stuff. And that's how insignificant he was. But keep going.
No. He wasn't a contributor in the categories where you was depending on him to get you 8, 9, 10 points a game. He's one of those guys that was wrestling for a spot in the rotation. That's why I brought him up. Now, once again, if you didn't notice, the Rockets bench was outscored by 28 points against the Lakers.
And we didn't lose by 8 points. Good stuff.
Understand, that was a winnable game. Think about the situation you're in. A winnable game, yet your bench did not show up aside for Daniel House. Now, meanwhile, all starters scored double digits for the Rockets. That's the first time that's happened in a long time. You can count times on one hand, one finger. That's probably happened since they've been in the bubble. For us, all 5 starters getting up in there like that. So that means PJ Tucker, he's now. That's the key. PJ Tucker, you're gonna have listen. He went back to what we saw from PJ Tucker early in the year, that 18 points, 11 rebounds. That was the PJ Tucker with no turnovers. That's key.
Jimmy,
and a winnable game. So you take
Jimmy, he should never make a turnover.
The Rockets was,
he should never make a turnover. TJ Tucker. He should never make a turnover. Because all he do is stay over there in the corner. All he got to do is shoot it. He should never make a turnover. But I saw something. Let me tell y'all something. We're going to have to do something. It's serious, y'all. And I'm serious. Something is wrong with Russell. I don't know what it is. You talking about PJ is key? Jimmy, what you said, every time I said about who James have to play with, you always bring up the stars that he played with. But stars got to play like a star. Russell will, guess what? I've never had a player in my entire life come and have a press conference and said, man, I was just out there running around. You get paid $42 million to just run around? Jimmy, I've never heard nothing, and I know it's something going on with it. We need to send him to Lovecraft County, Lovecraft country. Jimmy, I know you ain't seen it yet, but you got to check it out. And they need to have a seance with him, man. It's something inside of him need to be exercised out, because that guy was making turnovers that you probably didn't see. Did you go to any high school basketball games this weekend, Jimmy? Did you?
No, I went to some grassroots.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, grassroots basketball. He was playing. He was making mistakes that these little kids probably wasn't making this weekend. I'm serious. I've never seen an all-star play that bad. Maybe y'all have. I've never seen a former MVP play like that. I just never seen it.
The thing is, Russ has been known as a turnover machine with this Rockets team. The thing is, what made it magnified and punctuated his performance as far as mishandling the ball. A lot of his turnovers were live ball turnovers, meaning that you turn that ball over in the midst of something, and it led to about at least 5 fast breaks for the Lakers, which they converted. That's what a coach. A lot of times, coaches look at that. You turn that ball over. Now think about it. It's like this. You turn the ball over and you taking the ball out of bounds, you get a 5-second call, or you coming up the court and you get an 8-second call. That's not the same magnitude if you come up the court and a guy rip you, go lay it in. That's what the Lakers were doing to some of Russ's turnovers. Out of his 7, 5 of them, they going the other way. And Jimmy, that's one thing that's key. And Jimmy, then another thing is he only produced 10 points on the offensive end, Adam. He only produced 10 points. No. So that magnified it because you lost by single digits.
No.
If Russ show up on the offensive end.
Jimmy, you ain't hearing me. You talking about basketball. I'm watching his movements, the way he go to the bench, how he warming. Something is wrong with this guy, man. I mean, seriously, and I hope somebody snap him out. He's in a fog. I watched him the whole, it's like, I mean, think about it. He ain't even getting texts really. Got one a long time. He's so messed up, he can't even mess with the referee. Cause guess what Scott Foster said? Dude, you need to shut up and play because you terrible. So it's something is terribly wrong right now. And y'all watch it tonight. And I hope he jump out of it tonight. And we got a college coach coming on. And I just want to know, have he had a player that talented? Well, not that talented, but so talented, but he was going through some stuff off the court. Y'all got to remember now, Russ came to the bubble late, Jimmy. And he came to the bubble late. He had the thing. He had they say he had COVID-19, but he came to the, so he been he been catching up. Then soon as that happened, soon as he got there, guess what happened? He had a quad pull. So he was nursing the quad. So now I don't know. Somebody, Todd, say he looked confused. That's what it is, Todd. It's something is going on. I just never seen a player of this caliber, Jimmy, just run into double teams and get the ball stole and just stand there. But he did have 13 rebounds, Jimmy. So some about his motor is still working.
So you went all the way back to the beginning of him coming in the bubble. Mm-hmm. Okay. Since coming into the bubble, was something wrong with Russ when he scored 31 against the Bucks a couple of weeks ago?
Jimmy,
was something wrong? Was something wrong when he scored 20 in game 1?
No, Jimmy, I ain't talking about that. I am just telling you something is wrong with this guy. You wouldn't understand it. I'm just telling you.
I'm going to tell you when you know. You will know one game don't make a case. Every one of these players have had a delayed egg in one of the playoffs.
Jimmy, he's not, you looking at his stats. I'm looking at his mannerisms.
Dude, Russ has been one of those guys that he would check out on you. And he has a little bit of I don't give a damn about it. Understand this. So we will know tonight. Remember, some of the same things were said about Paul George a week and a half ago.
Paul admitted it.
And know Paul and understand something. So if Russ admits it, that it makes everybody a swami. Hell yeah, something wrong. Something wrong right there.
No.
So you saying ain't nothing wrong with LeBron? Ain't nothing wrong with James Harden? Hell, it's gonna always be that way when you lose. What do you mean? Ain't nothing wrong? Hell yeah, something wrong with every other person in there. That Bubba been that way, been there for a whole month. But still, there's nothing wrong with Jimmy Butler. His family ain't there. He said, "Don't even come see me. This business is a business trip."
I didn't say nothing about nobody's family being there. Not one time. But people deal with stuff different. That's all I'm trying to say.
Adam,
but Jimmy,
after a period of time, time will tell.
I'm gonna let you have your opinion. You can think what you want to. I'm just having
something could be wrong with you. If it's affecting your game on a consistent level, then it becomes a concern. One game,
he had 7 turnovers in the other game. He was the reason that Oklahoma almost beat us. Forget about that 7 games.
I just said a while ago that Russell Westbrook is a turnover machine with this team. At the same time, they've been winning with him with them turnovers. When you win, people ignore it. They will put up with it.
I said
but
it
if
then.
You lose,
excuse me, sir. I said it in the win, and I'm saying in the loss. I wasn't talking. He didn't play well in the win, and I said it.
Wait a minute. He played well. He didn't play great. He played well in that game.
Excuse me, sir. For this Rocket team to win a championship, he has got to be MVP Russell Westbrook. He has got to be MVP. Jimmy, you're so when I talk about the accomplishments of James Harden, you're so quick to say who he got on his team. You got a guy that's walking around like he's a zombie right now on his team. And he's been in a fault just because he's so talented. Sometimes he can score 31 points. He's that talented. But guess what? As the playoffs progress, the stakes are higher. The teams are better. He playing against one of the best, arguably, the best player in history. He arguably playing against one of the top players, if the top 5 players in the game, Anthony Davis, and he playing against the Lakers. So he can't afford to be in a fall. I'm not saying, Russell, I'm telling you, I'm watching his mannerisms because I've watched the games over and over and over again. It's something wrong with it. That's all I'm saying.
Remember something. Okay, understand. Okay, connect these dots backwards. For Russell Westbrook,
excuse me, sir. You don't have to feel that way. It's okay for you not to feel that way. It's okay. I'm not trying to get you to feel that way.
What are you talking about?
It's okay for you to feel that Russ is not having a problem mentally. I think it is.
No. What are you talking about? I just said he got a problem, and most people in there got a problem. Did you not hear that? What part of that you didn't hear? So let me explain to you why I know it's a problem. Number one, I talked to one of the Rockets coaches. I know it's a problem. Number two, they went to each other's room. They don't, for that to become news, it proves to you that he don't go to that guy's room quite often after games. Once again, if that was the case, the storyline in the news would have been after our customarily post-game congregation amongst the two stars. That's a rare occurrence. He don't go to that dude room later. First of all, in the regular season, the regular city, James Harden gonna be out party. So he ain't gonna be in his room. Russ gonna be somewhere else as well. So they in the bubble, this ain't a normal occurrence. He went to this guy's room, it showed you had a problem. And if you go all the way back to game one, well, not game one, go all the way back to the what was that, the OKC game? When Russ took that ball toward the end and dashed and ignored James.
And James saved it.
And went down there and took it. Remember? And so that has been probably bubbling. And some things have been bubbling over, maybe. Because I don't know if they talk about that in the bubble.
When you talk to the coach, what the coach say? What the coach say?
He said they had a problem. They had a problem with each other, man. They're gonna be all right. That's what he said. They're gonna be all right. Like, oh man, they did what they needed to do. Yeah, so they're gonna be all right. He said, then he turned it over, and the coach said that, listen, in turnovers, bottom line, if the Rockets, if they got to cut their turnovers and they got to stick with their game plan, and they have to learn a way to find the reads. A lot of reads, they were throwing doubles and traps at James Harden, and this is what he was saying. And basically, the Rockets got to react. You got a split second to react to some of this stuff because these are some of the best players in the world. And the Rockets were not reacting and sticking to their game plan. As such, they say they will be prepared. They will be ready tonight for that. Now, that means the Lakers come with the same type of game. The Rockets will be prepared for that. Now, everybody's going to make adjustments. We know it. But in this situation, I'm right now, it's what? It's 1-1, Hal. It's 1-1, Hal. It's 1-1.
I'm trying to explain something to you. You talking about every player dealing with it. Every player ain't dealing with it like this, and every player you're talking about in there is not an MVP. So I'm talking about the MVP. This MVP conversations right now. I'm talking about this man is an MVP. We traded Chris Paul and all of them people away to get this guy. And he comes in, I don't care what he dealing with. I just saw about 5 or 6 instances that I just said, he cannot be here. He was like the OJs. Your body here was me, but his mind was on the other side of town. I don't know where his mind was, and that's all I'm saying. No, that's one game. Now what happens is, Jimmy, he been playing like that. No, excuse me.
I'm talking about this series.
Excuse me.
I'm talking. They didn't play but 2 games in this series.
Jimmy, I'm talking about his body of work in the bubble. I have not been pleased with Russ. If Russ played, if Russ played better, we wouldn't have had to go 7 games with Chris Paul and them. If Russ played better. That's the point I'm trying to make. Russ have not played. He have not. All Russ is one of the best layup makers in the game. He been missing them like you would.
Russ, understand something. Russell Westbrook shooting about 20% from behind the arc. Russell Westbrook ain't took that many 3 attempts that he did last game. I think it was 1 for 7. He hadn't took that many. He missed 1 for 5 the game before that. And understand something. As I know from just talking to coaches alike around in the game, in certain situations, if you find yourself wide open, then that's probably a reason that you find yourself wide open a lot. Russ is the guy that they're daring to shoot it. And he's taking it on himself, understand, passing up other things, opportunities to go and get his game up. And as you just mentioned, it's about attacking the rim. Not just rebound, attacking the rim.
He is one of the best layup makers in the game. And
that's what he's not doing. He's not doing that. Those are things He's settling for the wide open
You're
three.
not hearing me,
He's-
Jimmy.
and-
Hold on. He missing the layups, Jimmy. You're not hearing me. He missing. I say he's one of the best layup makers in the game, and he's missing them. He getting to the hole in the hitting up under the rim, in the side of the rim. Those the kind of things I'm talking about. Wait a minute. Maybe y'all understand this. Let me talk to my people. He's smoking layups, y'all. That's what we call it out here. He's smoking layups.
So who team is this?
The Rockets.
Whose team is the Rockets?
What you mean? Who team is?
Whose team is this?
What you
Whose
mean?
team is it?
What you mean?
Is this Russell Westbrook team? Who team is this?
James Harden called Russ Westbrook their leader. So it's Russ Westbrook's team.
So you saying James Harden called Russell Westbrook their leader? So George Hill is the leader of the Milwaukee Bucks. That don't mean you're the best player. That ain't your team. George Hill is the leader for the Milwaukee Bucks. We just found that out a week and a half ago.
Okay.
Right? So the leader of the team.
Your question was not who the
team.
best player was. Your question was who
that
team
don't
is
mean
it?
it's your team. I say whose team is it? Just because you're the leader don't mean it's your team. So once again, whose team is the Houston Rockets?
What
You
you
just took
mean?
your sip. Let me take me a sip too. I'm gonna take me something. I'm gonna take me a sip of mine.
I can say whatever you
I'm
want.
asking for a friend again.
What do you
My
want
friend
me to
always
say?
asking me questions to ask.
What do you want
I'm
me to
asking
say?
for my friend.
I just gave you the answer. James Harden said Russ is their leader. As he go, we go. So to me,
I mean, that's
to
two different
me,
questions.
we got a
That's
college
gonna be
coach
the next
coming up.
question my
You know,
friend might ask you. Whose team is it?
well, guess what? James Harden, hold on. Excuse me. James Harden is the player that has taken the Rockets to 8 straight playoff bids. So I guess it might be 8 straight. Hold on. The longest streak in current NBA right now, 8 straight playoff appearances. So if you want to call him, that's his team, it's his team. Okay? 8 straight. Nobody, go back, y'all, look at it. Ain't nobody else in current. LeBron got knocked off last year. He didn't make the playoffs. So he out. 8 straight, James Harden. So it's James Harden team. Okay.
James Harden team?
Yeah.
Okay. Rest my case, Your Honor. Exhibit A. You can have that. We can go to commercial break, guys, and come right back and talk some more sports. We got come on. Oh, it's about that time. We got our special guest coming.
Yeah, he over
You
here
guys hang
laughing
right
at
there.
him.
We got college basketball royalty is about to join us. And if you guys remember JUCO basketball back in the days, remember the Sand Jack, the Running Ravens. We'll take you to a blast all the way to the past for your ass. When we come right back on the Chop Shop. You guys hang right there.
Hello, my friends. It's Harry Lennox here. It's been a couple of weeks since I last spoke with you. I've been traveling the country. A lot going on out there. It seemed like every place we left, something jumped off. While I was there, though, I saw a lot, and I was reminded of the words of my favorite politician of all time and one of my favorite religious leaders of all time, the great Adam Clayton Powell, Jr. And this is from a film that I did many years ago called Keep the Faith, Baby. Adam Powell started off as the head of the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem, and he became the congressman from New York, one of only 2 black congressmen at the time, bold man. And you'll listen to what he said when he announced that he was running for Congress and how prescient it is today. And because he said it better than I could, I thought I'd let him speak for me.
Many people may wonder why, from time to time, we must come together as a Negro people at events such as these to protest the unfair treatment that is being heaped upon Negroes throughout this country and throughout the world. But I say that protest has a purpose. I say there are measurable gains to be made when a person says, "Get off of my neck."
Welcome back to the best 120 minutes of your day. The Chop Shop, the nation's #1 urban sports talk show, and also your midday sports happy hour. Yours truly, Robert Hatt, alongside Jim Hicks. Those inserts I was playing during the break, I happened to watch I was watching The Godfather of Harlem a few months ago, and it was an interesting character in this movie, played by, I can't pronounce his name. He played in what's the name of the show? Do the Right Thing. He played in School Days, Galano Esposito, something like that. And he played this very interesting character that I fell in love with on the show, Adam Clayton Powell. And I didn't know much about Adam Clayton Powell. I knew, you know how Adam Clayton Powell. But I in the last 2 weeks, I went in depth and learned a lot about him. And in the coming weeks, man, he's an unbelievable. I would, if you haven't heard of him, go Google him, go YouTube him. He got a movie out. Vanessa Williams is in the movie. And he's just a remarkable man. And Jimmy, I spent time going to New York for the when my son was in college. I was in New York a lot, and my son, they always play Columbia University. So Columbia is like close, not far from Harlem, and that's where Adam Clayton Powell is from. Well, not from, where his church is, where he got his base. So, Jimmy, what was so unique? I stayed in this hotel directly right around the corner from his office, and is the Adam Clayton Powell Federal Office, and I never passed by there because I didn't know then. But now that when I get off the plane on my next trip to New York, I'm gonna make sure I go and check him out. But do me a favor, y'all. I mean, I went on a roller coaster ride of studying about him this weekend, and I'd like to share that with you in case you didn't know. But Jimmy, we got a special guest coming up, and I want you to, I mean, as customary, you introduce him. I just, I don't know how long, and Coach, I know it might be a couple of players that you coach that I know, so I just can't wait to talk about it. But Jimmy, I'll let you go so we can let's get to talk about college basketball a little bit.
Absolutely, and with us, this guy, understand that with RCS Sports, guys, of course, you hadn't been there. The VIP news is updated this morning with a lot of info from around the area. Guys, go check out rcssports.com. Click into the VIP news, get your daily fix. And shout out to Doug Jones, who updated the VIP news this morning. And speaking of RCS Sports, back when I started that company, one of the first coaches that embraced me and my efforts to keep the college coaches informed with intel around the greater Houston area was this young man that I'm introducing. He was at the time at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, where he actually had the task of starting up the program. They had no basketball besides intramural there before he got there in, I think, 98. And he was a couple of years in when I met him. And so, but I knew of him from back in the days when I was shooting the 8th grade, 9th grade, coming on through. You knew this guy. His name was a legend every time he came on the TV. The sports, his team would come on before the Rockets, with their highlights. They were that, and that was San Jacinto Junior College at that time when he got there back in 1977. And so this coach, what I'm talking about, he met me and then invited me at the time, Hatter. A lot of things were popular then. It's kind of faded out. NCAA has made rules. It kind of made it kind of tougher. But two things that was very popular at the turn of the millennium on several college campuses: elite camps, team camps. I went to several campuses. This team camp that he installed at A&M Corpus Christi was about as good as it gets. And he had, I don't know how many teams, I'm gonna ask him in a minute, but he had the teams coming from all over, and understand, Corpus Christi. I mean, it was just great being and invited. I went down, invited me down there. I went down there and covered that camp.
How many years ago was this?
This was back in 15 years ago, 16, something like that, easy.
Okay.
And I'm there from sun up to sundown in the gym, working, covering the camps. And it was the team camps that was.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up leaving there and going to South Alabama. Mm-hmm. And when he was at South Alabama, he ended up coaching and recruiting and signing one of the players who played alongside of your son, out with the Houston Hoops.
That's who I was going to ask him about. Yes.
In Little Juice Williams Jr.
Yes.
And signed him at South Alabama.
Yes.
Now, amongst several others. But without further ado, guys, we have the legend with us today, Ronnie Arrow. Coach, what's going on? Welcome to the Chop Shop.
Jimmy, Robert, how y'all doing? It's
Man,
good to be here.
Coach, I got to give you your applause.
Uh-oh.
Okay, now you can go.
Man, we had some good times. We had some good times in Corpus and in Houston. There's been some great players come out of the Houston area and Texas. And I was just fortunate to come through there. Scott Jernander, who was my assistant all those years, we were able to put some very good teams together. And when you put good teams together, you got great players. And it works like that. There's a lot of things that's changed over the years. But one thing that hadn't changed, to have a great program and win, you got to have great players.
Coach, you remember
great player.
Coach, he mentioned Scott Jernander. That's one of my most favorite people in the world, Coach. Coach, he coached Sam Cassell in college, right? So I'll never
forget. Steve Francis.
Yeah, and Steve Francis. But what happened, Sam, every time Sam comes to Houston, he always set Scott right next to me. You know, when he give us our tickets, and I'll always wind up, no matter what, to this day, Coach, even happened this year, Scott was sitting right next to me, and great man. I did not know he got started under you. I did not know that.
Yeah. And then after I left, Scott got the head job, and then he hired his assistant, Scott Robert Jr., and he took Scott's place afterwards. So there's been a lot of great teams, a lot of good coaches that have come through there, and we're just fortunate enough to be a part of it. You know, all these years, Jimmy, I still don't know if you have hair, Jimmy. After all these years, I've never seen. I used to call you the mannequin from Dillard's hat department. I've never seen him without a hat. When I look for Jimmy at tournaments and stuff, I look for hats. I wouldn't look for his face. I'd look for his hats. But Robert, you might be the only guy I know that might know if he has hair or not.
Coach, he got a little bit, Coach. It's got a little Stephen A. Smith in it. He got a little bit. But Coach, guess what? As soon as you come on the screen, Jimmy might want to take you somewhere else, but we have questions that pop up on our Facebook and YouTube feed, and we got a mom who's very, very active in trying to make sure her son make the right decisions, right? And she just said, question for you, Coach. How do you identify greatness in 8th, 9th, and 10th grade?
Well, I do skill development with kids now. Actually, we have a home north of Houston on Lake Conroe. When we go back there, I do camps there. We haven't been able, we had to cancel 2 of them because of the COVID deal, the virus. So we haven't been back there in a while. But to answer your questions, we take them from the 3rd grade to the 6th grade through the 12th grade and college kids. And, when you do it with the young kids, just keeping their attention. I've got a little 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, he's 4 now, that can go behind his back, go through his legs, dribble fast. The main thing with that young kids is that the interest, if you can hold their interest long enough to see. Anytime that I would go see kids play, there's 2 things that I would tell my assistants to look for. Number 1, don't bring me a soft kid, whether mentally or physically. Don't, because it's not going to work out well. Okay, you've got to have tough-minded, tough physical kids to play. Especially if you want a college scholarship, you better bring it your junior and senior year and be able to take a hit. The next thing is skills. Okay, the next thing is knowledge of the game. But when they're that young, you want them to be able to come And when you work with them, you can tell if they're having fun. If they're bored and it's just mom and dad want them to do it, you're not a babysitter. This isn't a daycare deal. You bring them to see if they're interested in that. But I would tell her, give them a ball, let them have fun with it. Don't force them. If they're interested, they'll take that ball and go out and dribble. I think that's the biggest thing. And they'll go out and dribble, and they'll go out and shoot. I remember when I was growing up, we didn't have a goal. I used to shoot on top of the roof and be able to get up there on top of the roof. Then we finally put a goal up. But just the interest part of it, they have to have an interest at it. Later on becomes the passion and all that stuff. But they got to have an interest at an early age.
Okay.
So you mentioned don't bring your soft kid. How does a person or a parent know? I mean, because that their kid.
I'm talking about older, Jimmy. I'm not talking about young. I'm not talking about young.
Okay.
When they're that age that Robert was talking about, they got to have fun. They got to have an interest. They got to want to be there. Okay, and those are the main things I think. And our 3rd and 4th graders and 5th graders, I just look for them to just want to be there and have fun, because we have some fun drills that we do with them too. But everybody wants to shoot the ball.
Everybody indeed want to shoot the ball. And so now, Coach, I was going back to, I wanted to ask you about we were talking about the team camps and stuff early on, of no times have changed. What inspired you? How did you come up with the concept, and how did you increase your team camp? So for people that out there may be watching, that maybe college coaches may watch Chop Shop as well. And give us a couple of tips as to how you were able to attract so many teams, and then tell us what was the most teams you've ever had at your team camps. We're talking about A&M Corpus Christi, who was relatively less than 10 years old of having a program, and you implemented that at the time.
Yeah, we get up to in the 40s, maybe 52 teams coming to it. But it always helps. There's only 2 schools in the country that's on an island. That's the University of Hawaii and Corpus Christi. So we had the ocean there to invite people. And then you mentioned Juice Williams Jr. Well, I was good friends with Big Juice, and he would always have a couple teams. So I got in with him. He started coming, and we built that thing up. Now, the biggest thing that you got to do, we were able to get them to have the referees camp there, which coincided with it. And that was a big deal, because you don't want to have to pay for officials to come in there, but bring them in. We'd have a big party for all the officials and the coaches. They get to know one another, and then they would work the camps and then have fun at night. But it was nice. Once we got them down there, it was just like a recruit. Once we got them on the island down there in Corpus, then we had a good chance not only getting them back, but they would tell their friends, and it just grew and grew and grew.
I mean, and indeed, I mean, those were some good times. Let's go before the Corpus gig in the junior college ranks. I remember you had the team Moses Scurry and all those guys, I think, back in the days, right? And
I'm gonna tell you a quick story about now. Moses and David Butler was my last team there, and we got beat in the semifinals by McLennan and Mookie Blaylock. He hit one at the buzzer. But in '83, when we won our first national championship, we had Spoon James and Andre Irvin from New York, Ron Singleton, who was from Dallas, Andre Ross from Milby, Wendell Owens from New York. All of those guys signed with major high Division I schools. Spoon went to Vegas, and Ron went to Arizona State, and Kerry went to Auburn, and so on and so forth. But back then, even though there was 2 regions in the state, they only took 1, except for every 3rd year they take 2. So we had to play Midland and Spud Webb to go to nationals. And they had just won the nationals the year before, and Spud was back, and he was all everything and this and that, and he was a great player. And we went out there. Nolan Gibson signed with Bradley, sprained his ankle, biggest ankle I've ever seen. And we got it to go down, didn't practice for a whole week. And he shows up to play Spud in Midland. Well, let's just put it like this. We won the game. Spud fouled out, and Nolan had, I think, 21 points. He played very, very well. And then we went on and played Moberly in the first round, which had a great team. And that was really for the national championship. We beat them and went on and won it. Then in '84, and Spoon was National Junior College Coach or Player of the Year. Then in '84, when we won it, we added a player by the name of Walter Berry. And Walter the Truth. And then Lou Hill, also from New York, who's also now the head coach at UT RGV, Rio Grande Valley, down there. And then he went on to Wichita State, and then Linwood Moy, those guys. And we went back and won the national championship again. Both those teams were 35-2. Then we skipped a year. We got beat out to go in '85. Then in '86, we go back and we wind up 37-0 national champs. There was only, I think, 2 or 3 teams that were undefeated national champs. Boo Harvey went to St. John's. Michael Porter went to St. John's. That was St. John's backcourt. Coach Cornseca's the most sincere head coach I've ever seen. We had a bunch come through there. That was a good man, and we had a bunch of good coaches come through there. Not just good coaches, good people. We had Liddell Eccles, that was National College Coach of the Year.
Yeah. I went to JUCO with his brother Marvin Eccles at Angelina. He played basketball. I was playing baseball. And
then he came. Yeah, and then he came. Marvin came here and played for me here on our '91 good team that won the Sun Belt here. So we got Liddell's brother Marvin to come. And then Tom Grant, that was from Houston, signed with, went back and played with the University of Houston. So those are one. But a quick story. We won 71 games in a row. This is for coaches, any coaches there. Never give up on a dream. We had won 3 national championships, and I had talked to some Division I places about their jobs when they came open. We won 71 games in a row, and we go to nationals, and we get beat by by McLennan. And I get back to the hotel, and the phone's ringing. And it's Joe Gottfried, the athletic director at University of South Alabama, wanting to know if I'd be interested in talking to him about the job at South Alabama. So here it was. We had won 71 games in a row. Didn't really get a lot of offers to go coach at the Division I level. And then we get beat. And then Joe Gottfried and we talk. And so I wind up getting a head job there. So as far as coaches, you never know when that break is going to come. Just keep plugging, keep doing what you know is going to help you to get to where you want to be, and good things will happen.
Man, that's a hell of a blast to the past. What you had, Hatter?
No, you good? Keep on going. Yeah.
Now, let me throw one thing in. Then I'll shut up. When Scott and I get together, Robert, your man, Scott, when we get together, we always think about, our all-star team at San Jack.
Okay.
So picture this team. I think we could win a few games.
Okay.
At the point guard spot, Boo Harvey. Okay. Now, these are the ones we both coached. I didn't coach Sam Cassell and Steve Francis.
Okay.
The 2 spot, Liddell Eccles, and after him, Ollie Mack, who played with the Chicago Bulls. At the 3 spot, Larry Spriggs, and backing him up is Spoon James. At the 4 spot, we got Walter Berry, and we got Moses Scurry backing him up. And then at the 5 spot, we got Alton Lister, who's backed up by David Butler. And then throw in Sam Cassell and Stevie Francis, and I think that we could beat a few teams.
Well, Coach, back then, you walked into San Jack. What was the state of the program? What was the record before you got there in '77?
They were winning. Now, I didn't start winning at San Jack. I didn't start all the winning. Tom Sewell, Ron Rucker, Dean Evans, they all started it. Ron Rucker won the only other national championship that was won at San Jack there, but they were winning. Now here's two ends of the spectrum. You go into a program, another coaching deal. You go into one program where they've won ever since the school started. So you go in as a coach, say, man, I got to keep this up where it's at. Then you go to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, who hadn't had a program in 25 years, no sports. And you start a program there, which is what we did. We started the program at Texas A&M in Corpus. And by the time we left, we had gone to the NCAA tournament, playing University of Wisconsin in Chicago in the first round. The last 3 years we were at Corpus, we won 20 games or more each of those years. So there's two ends of the spectrum. You go into one place that you're starting a Division I program from scratch. You go into another program where they've won forever, and you got to keep it at that level. So it's two different things that you have to accept as a coach and to go in there and get the job done.
I got two questions for you, Coach, from the Facebook feed. Coach Leah said, what is the biggest difference in recruiting at the JUCO level and the D1 level? And then the next one, you can piggyback after that one. Well, the differences between Kansas and Texas, which ones has the better junior college programs?
Well, we talking about when I was in junior college, or are you talking about now?
Let's say now.
Now? Okay. I'm going to put it like this in a short brief. When we were going to Hutch and playing in the national tournament there were college coaches coming there, and in the whole tournament, there would be literally, out of those teams, there would literally be 20 to 35 high major players there in the tournament with the different teams. Maybe not quite 35, but at least 18 to 25 high Division I's. If you go to Hutch now, there might be 5 in the whole team, high Division I. The reason, and it's going to get worse if they pass that rule that supposedly, and still talking to Division I coaches, this coming year, not this year, but the following year, kids are not going to have an ACT or SAT score to go. They're just going to have to graduate and have their core classes. Okay, that's real important for that. The following year, if they pass the rule that you can transfer and be eligible right away, Katie bar to the door. It's going to be the wild, wild west. This year, and y'all being around sports like you are, there was over 900 Division I players transfer this past year. Might have been 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, overnight. That might be doubled if they open this up to transferring and being eligible right away. I think that is not a good. When I first, y'all asked, or the lady asked, how was it recruiting when I first got to San Jack? There was no national letters at all. Okay. Okay. You could sign a conference letter. So when we were there, if we signed a kid, then that sort of put the alert out that, man, if this kid's good enough to go to San Jack, we got to start recruiting them. So I think that it's going to be a lot like that if they open the gates and allow kids to just transfer and be eligible right away.
Who do you think is going to hurt the most?
Well, the junior colleges can say goodbye to really, really good players going there, because those kids that weren't getting their grades that were going to junior colleges won't be doing that anymore. They'll be going, trust me, they'll be going to the high majors. And if the other thing happens with the transfer deal, it's going to be the mid majors and the low majors. They're just going to be farm systems for the big boys. If you get a kid and they mature and they become a really good player, bye. The fans won't ever get to see him blossom for 4 years, because they'll be going. They'll have to turn them on and see playing at Kansas or Texas or Houston. Well, what a job Kelvin and Chris has done at their schools.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Would you add, Adam?
And Coach, and I'm sitting there. You just said it'll be done. So, Coach, but it's just so many spots you can have at the D1 level. You still got but 13 players still play. So we're gonna have some more. I know you're saying that they're gonna be done, but these players got that. What if the person it's gonna be that next tier? You got that top player, but what about that next player could be? What about the Ja Morants?
Everything is going to move down a notch. You're going to make room for the better ones, and then the ones that were low are going to be the ones that the junior colleges are going to be getting.
I got
They're
you.
not going to be getting the high ones.
Okay.
Unless the kid is a major head case, they're going to wind up, and even some of those will wind up at high majors.
Okay. I got you. Jimmy,
It'll just be a step ladder.
You guys keep the questions coming. We're gonna get to every one of your questions with Coach Arrow. This is some good convo, and I wanted to ask you something myself before we switch gears, and that is, you said the mid-level programs is going to be those going to be like feeders to those Power
farm
5
systems,
or the Power 7s when it comes to basketball. And here's what a coach, you can give your thoughts on this. And a coach mentioned that to me recently, a college coach, Division I coach, that is going to be concerned now because playing those guaranteed games, that's what many of you guys watching may know as the money games. Your kid, best player may have a great game against that Power 5 or that Power 7 program. That school that you're playing against, given in a guaranteed game, has scouted him before the game and got a chance to see him physically go against their best players. And if you drop a 30-10 or 25-8, and now they know you're gonna want to transfer, they're gonna like the atmosphere because now they're playing on the road in the guaranteed game. That's like an unofficial visit for that kid. Now, the coach ain't doing no tampering, but they watching that kid. Every kid who scores against them on one of those teams is a potential transfer. And what's your thoughts on that? Or do you think that's going to make some schools shy away from playing some against other schools, or are they not going to be able to turn down that guaranteed money?
Oh, no, they're not going to. They can't turn down the guaranteed money. They got to have the money. The mid-majors and the low, they got to have the money. They've got to have the money. You can't worry about that. You get players, you got to go play. I'll give you, for instance, one of the really good players, and Juice Williams Jr., came here, and he could have came here, had 2 or 3 good years, and gone on somewhere else. But we had a kid here, Augustine Rubin.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We recruited him. Great kid, great player. Okay. He got better and better and better. And by the time going into his junior year, he could have easily, if they would have had this rule in place, transfer, and you don't have to sit and go back to Houston and play. Houston starts recruiting them. And we wouldn't have had him. He wouldn't have been here for 4 years. He was one of those ones, Jimmy, that you talk about that you go see in the summer and play, and they're in the gyms. Now, he played for Steve Trauber's team during the summer, who's one of the better AAU teams there. And I might say Steve did it the right way with his teams. So anyway, to answer that question, it's going to open up, and I hate to see that rule come in. The only way I would think that rule should be if a head coach leaves, kids should be able to transfer and go to another school.
I agree with that. I kind of agree with that. But guess what? It's been going the other way for so long, Coach. Maybe they just trying to catch up. It's been going the coach's way for so long. They said, hold up, we're going to have to get the players a little power now, because the coaches that had power for a long time. So maybe That's what it. But somebody asked the question, Coach. It's gonna be like grassroots team playing on a sneaker team. Then your best players do good against the sneaker team. The sneaker team come take the player.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's going to be. And trust me, loyalty ain't going to matter. When those big guys knock on the door, knock on somebody's door to call somebody, then they're gone. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Coach, you know what's so funny? You made me think about something. You say they be scouting them other teams. I had a story. Mike Davis called me out of the blue one night. Just called me and said, man, because he was about to play Syracuse, right? So my son and them had already played Syracuse. So guess what he was doing? Like just watching the video, the tape from them games. He said, man, I didn't know that boy could play like that. And it was so funny that a Division I college coach calling me and just say, it's just the people out there, the thorough job that y'all do as coaches, Coach, it's just unbelievable. That's one of Jimmy's favorite words when he talked to the coach. If the game went good or bad, he said, was that your scout that game? Who scout was at that game? who scout was at the game? So I found that unique because you just took me back, and I remember Coach Davis just calling me out of the blue. I was like, what the hell, Coach calling me for? You know, so it was unique.
There's a great point right there, Robert. There's a great point right there. You take Mike's son that is leading the country in scoring and stuff.
Yeah.
If he wasn't playing for his dad,
oh, he's gone.
If he wasn't playing, he's gone.
Gone.
He's gone. There's a great example right there of what you just said. He's gone.
And now we have a couple other questions for you. We get to the boom boom room, and guys on the Facebook feed, if you're watching right now, up to the Chop Shop, make sure you share the show to your timelines, to your hoop groups, to your friends and whatnot. Shout out to everybody in our YouTube audience who's watching right now. We'll get to your questions as well. As a matter of fact, we'll go to the YouTube first. And he says, how does a JUCO colleges recruit grassroots when the players think they're Division I? Did you target D1 transfers more than your high school players back when you were in the JUCO rank?
Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, when I was at San Jac, the better players, we didn't have just knuckleheads that were going to go out and do bad things. Our best players didn't have their grades, just to be quite frank about it. They didn't have their grades to go big time. Now, we got some kids for different reasons, to get better so that they could go to a high major. They're really good, like Walter Berry or some of those kids like that. They came to get their grades up and leave. Larry Spriggs was one of the first ones. Howard University told me about him. Ronnie, you need to take this kid. Now, we would like him back. And I said, that's fine. So we took Larry. I think he wound up averaging like 24 points and about 12 rebounds. And he got his grades. And they stayed in touch with him. Larry could have gone to a bunch of things. But Larry was such a good person. He felt loyalty to going back to Howard. And he went back to Howard and had a good career there. So, different reasons for different kids going. But the junior colleges are going, hey, they're like anybody else. They're going to get the best players they can, too. And unfortunately, a lot of them didn't have their test scores. They didn't have their GPA, whichever. Now, all of a sudden, if they don't have to have their test scores to get in, bye-bye, JUCOs. They ain't getting them.
But, Coach, Ken Lutz asked on the Facebook, on the YouTube feed, he said, this can become a recruiting tool for mid and low major players. He said, you don't get the offer you wanted to, come to us for 1 or 2 years, and you'll be able to transfer.
You got to do what you got to do. Okay. You got to find your place on the pedestal, and you might have to come down a couple pecks, but you got to get the best kids that you can, because the bottom line is It's whether it's in high school, junior college, you better win. It's a very easy occupation. You better win. And guess what? When you win, you better do it the next year, and then you better do it the next year, and then you better keep winning.
I mean, and I would think that it would work the same way for those mid-level programs to become feeders off of and be a lure for the top player from the bottom level of Division I programs. Because those guys in their mind, they're thinking you're going to go from TSU to the University of Texas. But meanwhile, you might miss that mark and you might have to end up at UTSA, which is budget-wise, it may be, it might not be, it may be laterally, you're talking about TSU, because them coaches get paid, the head coach at TSU get paid more than the head coach at UTSA. So budget-wise, it may not be a lateral, but as far as the thought process and that the lure, it's going to really, like you're saying, this is really interesting. And this is not something that we're talking about that may happen. This is what's going to happen, because they're going to vote the NCAA and amend the rule, whereas you will be able to transfer anytime. So you get one time to transfer without sitting out. One time transfer.
Oh, so you get.
And my understanding, Jimmy, is that from talking to the Division I coach, it's going to happen the following year.
So 2022 or 2021?
This coming year, they're going to relax the ACT that you have to have that. Mm-hmm. The following year, they're going to do, you don't have to sit. Now, that's my understanding. They might do both of them this first year, but, it's they just, whatever they do, but just keep what's right for the kids in mind. And not just because it's easy. There's too much easiness going on in this world right now. Okay? There's too much easiness going in this world right now. Kids got to learn to fight and do and get to where they want to be. Jimmy, you didn't get to where you are by just not getting there. Robert, you didn't get to where you are by just sitting back and so on and so forth. These kids have got to learn that they got to get out and work for what they've got to do and then let the chips fall where they fall.
Hey, man, that's some good nuggets you're dropping, Coach. And we got more questions for you.
I got another for Coach. Coach, do you remember playing against John Mouton and Angelina?
Yeah.
His wife is on the feed. She said John gave you the bleed. She said John gave you the blues down there, man.
He did. He was a good player. I tell you what now, Angelina, Guy Davis, who was the head coach there, I mean, he had some good teams now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got
you. He had some good teams there. Hey, you look at when Scott and I was at San Jack, you're looking at Tyler, you're looking at Angelina, you're looking at Kilgore, Lee College. It was a war every time we went across that bridge. It was a war. So there was a bunch of junior colleges that could have beat a lot of four-year schools. Trust me on that one.
So what happened to the JUCOs? Understand why and of course San Jack has decided to abolish their basketball program totally.
Yep.
And this was last year, which is and want to get your thoughts on that. Plus, what happened to the power, the stranglehold that a lot of our JUCOs in Region 14 had, which, as you mentioned, meaning they were measured amongst the major Division I prospects that were collectively amongst all of those different programs. It ain't the same like that no more. Meaning that, in other words, back in your days, you knew the major Power 5 schools, they knew that they was going to Houston and do the two-step with Lee and San Jack, no matter what you guys had. They know you had something for them. They ain't have to even ask. Now it's like they got to look and scour through. How did the talent level deplete itself in our JUCOs over these past few years?
Well, a lot of that is that the Division I schools, the best players were sitting kids. It's just like when we started the program at Corpus, okay, we got 3 kids from San Antonio, Chris Daniels, the Bailey brothers, Corey Lampkin. All 4 of those was the heart of our teams there for 4 years. We would not have gotten those kids. They had to come and sit their first years and pay their own way. That right now is happening more because of the good kids. The high major schools are finding ways to get the best players into their schools and sit, or they put them in prep school. Those things. When I was at San Jack, prep schools were no problem. Kid bring up prep school to me, that was no problem, unless a high major put them there. Okay, we got high majors to put kids with us also. I remember Coach Lewis when he first got the job. I played with his son Vernon in junior high, and then he went to Austin. I went to Jones. They won the state championship in '64. We won it in '65. Ooh, I just told my age. And so those were those back then. We were able to get some good things going with even back then with kids going JUCO and stuff. So times change. But I'm gonna tell you, the only way JUCOs are gonna get a really good kid now, 2 ways. They're a knucklehead, or a high major runs out of room and puts them there for a year and then brings them back.
Man, this is some good nuggets right here, Coach. Man, I like it, man. This is a good blast to the past right here. We got so many questions in the Boom Boom Room. Howard, what you got? Who's up next with the question?
Let Coach finish,
Let me say one thing.
Let Coach finish.
Yeah, let me say one thing for all the ones that are listening and got kids or friends or anyone's coming up. Don't play with any coaches that call you. You might think that you're a high major player and you're not getting, but then you get a really good junior college or you get a really good Division II school calling you and you play them. You don't call them back. You don't And guess what? If you don't get what you want, you'll be circling the wagon and going back and calling those people. Now, if there's no way you want to go somewhere, whether it's for distance, whether it's for whatever, you tell the coach, don't play him. But if it's a good program, I don't care what level it is, you owe it to yourself to continue and your parents to continue to talk to them and be truthful with them. Okay, I really like your program. If I don't get so-and-so, I'm really interested in coming to your program. There's too many kids and parents that blow schools off, and at the end of the year, they're calling those schools because they didn't get what they want.
And it's a good thing. Parents, if you didn't, once again, stop. Don't play around with these college coaches. I'm telling you. And this is from a career college coach and a retired college. I'm telling you guys, they know you're going to come back. A lot of them know, many of you guys that had the boomerang effect, you're going to be coming back around. And some coaches, albeit is sad, but it's true, some coaches hold grudges like that.
Well, you're human. You're human. If you're at a program, that's your baby. And then somebody blows you off, would you go back? Well, if they're really good, you'd go back and get them.
That's exactly.
There's always an exception to the rule.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Now, when somebody asks a good question, how was you able? You said Corpus, at one particular year, I don't know what year it was, and he says you were able to. He said, "This is Darryl." So I want to know how you were able to build a program with a roster filled with primarily San Antonio kids. People seem to have overlooked that city back when he was there.
Yeah. Those 4 kids that I just mentioned was the heart of they came, pay their own way, and then they had 4 years. Okay? Because if they would have gone JUCO, we wouldn't have been able to get them. They would have been too good for us. Chris Daniels was 6'10", 310 pounds when we got him. He sat and we got him in shape.
Remember him. Big fella.
I still got about 9 to 11 kids playing overseas. So between all the schools that I've been at, and so those kids were the heart. Now you put Mike Hicks with that. Now y'all probably never heard of Mike Hicks. Okay, Mike Hicks was from the Bahamas, and he came to us. And he was JUCO All-American first team. How did we get him? A friend of mine, Jimmy Voigt, was coaching there. We were able to get him. And he brought 2 of his buddies with him. Mike Hicks came with us. If we wouldn't have got screwed at the University of Texas, at the end of the game, Jim Howler, who was doing the game, came up and said, before I went on, he said, boy, did y'all get screwed. They beat us.
Guys do that?
Off the air. So he came up, and I think we got beat 3 at Texas, Mike's senior year. We get on a bus, or we get on a plane, fly to Texas Tech. We beat Texas Tech. Mike had, I think, 28 against Texas and 31 against Texas Tech. We go into the room after the game. We beat Texas Tech. They said, with those 2 games, we're going to nominate you as the Big 8 Player of the Year or Player of the Week because of playing Texas and playing Texas Tech. He was the last guy to be cut by the Knicks. He played for Italy, signed big money, played there, and up until 2 years ago, he was still playing.
I mean, that's how we got it started. That's how we got it started at Corpus. And here's another question for you, Coach. He says, with these new rules, the kids that have the grade issues, will they be able to maintain in the big school classroom?
Yes, they'll find a way. They'll
Coach,
find a way.
I gave them that. I told them that.
They get real smart. They get real smart when you have one person that's teaching or tutoring you one-on-one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, unless they're a complete problem. Now, the big schools are not going to put up with problems anymore.
Right.
Which there's not too many of them. The high majors don't anyway.
Right.
That's why some of those kids filter down. So, and it's a shame to have some of these kids with all the ability in the world, and they just hadn't figured it out, and they'll go through 4 or 5 schools and still don't figure it out.
Coach, I got a question, Coach. I got a question. This is mine, Coach. What about in your time? Because I know you like tough players, right? You say you like tough players.
Who doesn't?
No, Coach, but let's say you got a freshman come in, okay? And the other players talking stuff to the freshman, okay? The older players. And the freshman, okay, let it go. But then this freshman ain't no regular freshman. He going back at these dudes on the court and will make a snide remark back to the supposedly best player he going against in the school. Coach, how would you handle that? Coach, this something that really happened. This not hypothetical. This something that really happened. And I'm just trying to figure out, because I'm telling the young fella, you keep mashing the gas. But I don't think this culture allows for you to keep mashing the gas on the top player. Coach, how? But I'm telling my dude, hey man, keep mashing the gas. Keep mashing the gas. So how do you handle that, Coach?
It's called pride. It's called pride. When that youngster goes at that big one, that older one, experienced one, he don't want to be embarrassed by a rookie. And that rookie's out there, and if he's a competitor and got pride, he's going to go right at him and try and do everything, kick his butt every chance he gets. I'll give you an example. Last night, I've got a girl that comes to me that's really, really good. I mean, really good. She's a senior this year. She was first team All-State for 2 years.
Okay.
And we went with the elite group last night, and she was going against this guy. She don't back down from anybody. Well, the guy sort of, I don't want to. She kicked his butt. I brought the guy over here, and I said, if you still want to keep getting your butt kicked, you better get a burr up your tail and start doing something, because guess what? She will continue to kick your butt. And he started putting some, now she's going to be a senior. He's a good sophomore coming up. And all of a sudden, they start competing like they should against one another. Because if he wouldn't have, she would have continued to kick his butt.
And so,
Hey.
so it ain't the responsibility. See, and I'm thinking during these times, I think the coach kind of want the freshman to tone it down. Because the freshman, hold up, the freshman says something real slick. I don't want to say it over the air because people are talking about who the player is. But the coach, he says something real slick to the older guy now. Says not cursing, but if you that good, you wouldn't be here.
Well,
You'll be
with
gone.
the new rules,
Huh?
hey, with the new rules, if that rookie is that good, he will be gone. With the new rules.
No. The rookie ain't trying to go. The rookie ain't trying to go nowhere. It's the older guy that's having the problem. The rookie, hold up, coach. Coach, in other words, coach, we got to call the young pup off the upperclassman, coach.
Well, you know, that's what your assistants are for.
Okay.
That's why they're in practice.
Okay.
That's why you bring them in afterwards
Uh-huh.
and bring them in together and tell them the competition that's there.
Yes.
Bring them in separate for the rookie.
Uh-huh.
You keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
Because you're gonna get better every day. The older one you bring in, look, we're lucky to have this dude, and I'm gonna put him against you as much as I can. I expect you as an upperclassman to go right back at him
Okay.
and let the chips fall where they fall.
I like that.
Hey, that's a good another nugget on how a head coach would handle a situation of such at a campus. Now, and I got something else I want to ask you, but first I want to get a couple more questions in. One, somebody asked, Herb asked, he's asked Coach Arrow if not signing Tavario Miller had anything to do with your decision to retire.
Tell my man Herb Baker, good man. And I'm gonna tell you what, if you've got a young kid that needs training, it won't just be skills. He'll put them on the hills.
Yeah.
He'll put them with the weights. He'll make a man out of them with the skills. But yeah, I still hold that against Herb not getting Tavarius. Tavarius could have been a heck of a. Now he went to A&M,
Yeah.
and he was like the 6th, 7th man, I think, his whole career, 7th or 8th man.
Yeah.
Where if he'd have come to San Jack,
Been a start.
he could have had some really good stats and played on some of our really good teams. I
Well, that's
won't
San
forget you,
Jack.
Herb. I owe you, Herb.
You mean South Alabama or San Jack, Coach?
South Alabama.
Yeah, you said San Jack.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
you-
yeah.
and so-
South Alabama.
And I mean, the questions are just flowing in. I'm loving them. And I'm looking on the timeline to get some of these other questions for you guys. Here we go. How often are you asked by recruits when the head coach contract ends, or if the school they're interested in attending? When you were a head coach, how often did you hear the parent during the visits? Did they ask you or inquire about your contract? When it was
Depended on where your contract was. If you had 1 year left, or if you had 4 years
You
left.
don't talk about
There's a little bit of a difference there. And trust me, coaches will use that against you.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you're winning, you won't have a 1 year left. You'll have 4 or 5 years left. If you're not, then those other coaches will go at that like a piranha on meat.
And I mean, it's I'm loving the comments and the question for you guys. And I'm looking right now for some more of your questions. I'm seeing so many. I'm scrolling down, trying to get some of the newer ones in. I'm looking for a female. And here's another one from Ken. He says, how about the kids that's on special aid, that's special ed, right? That's going high major because of their ability to play Division I. In other words, how as a Division I coach, if somebody's out there that's watching and their kid or relative is probably under the 504 clause or learning disabled or needs a little, how do you guys, does that affect your recruitment of them? And explain the program or the ways for which they can become eligible to play if they're good enough.
Jimmy, that's a really good question because I had that come up in my coaching career with kids. Parents, pay attention. If you have a kid that is learning disabled, don't be embarrassed about it. Get your kid tested at the lowest first level that you can and keep doing it. For instance, if you wait, now I'm talking about still having the ACT to all that. If they do away with that, then it's different. But if you wait and you have to take the ACT and you're not tested at a young age where it's on your records, if it's on your records, you can be untimed. You can have somebody read it to you. There's all types of things that can happen that if it comes up with you, it's already on your records. If not, it is a major chore to get that testing done, that you become a senior and now it's time to take your ACT or SAT and all of that. Then try and get it tested, then take the ACT. It becomes a boogie bear. And get it tested. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. You owe it to your son or daughter to have those tests done. Then it can go with them and they get all these privileges. I'm not talking about gimme. I'm talking about special privileges that they deserve in their situation.
Wow.
I mean, that's awesome, man. A lot of people have no idea. You can't stress that enough. Why, in today's society, why are so many parents reluctant to do so?
To be truthful, it's just like love them to death. You know, they've tried to get me to coach AAU teams here. No, thank you. Because you as a parent and your son or daughter as a child like me doing skill work. They won't like me if I'm coaching them. Okay? So those are the kind of things parents, they want their kids to be about. Oh, I got this jewel. Put them on the court. They may not or may not be a jewel. Okay? So they put them on a high pedestal. And then if it doesn't work out, then I hate to use the word embarrassed, but they're embarrassed. So don't put them in a situation that anybody would be embarrassed with. Okay? Just put them in a situation, give them all the love, give them all the skill development that you can, give them all the AAU stuff that you can, and when you've done what you can, and then back them.
Wow.
Here, I get this all the time, Jim. Ronnie, is it better to do skill work or do AAU? You do both. You get to see both. You get to showcase in AAU games what you've learned in skill development.
Mm-hmm.
If you just go play AAU games, you're not going to get to where you should be. Because if you're doing things wrong, you're going to continue to do them wrong. If you're doing them right, you'll continue. But I've seen situations where kids on their AAU teams, they leave them in, they're playing horrible. Okay? Talk to them, they've had no skill work. You can't throw these kids to the lions. Give them the skill work. Let them do both. You see both. In AAU ball, you get to see body language. You get to see how they react to coaching. You get to see skill work. You get to see knowledge. But if they don't do skill work, you're not going to see them at their best in any of those things skill-wise that you would get to see them at. It's a showcase of, that's why I call my deal here the classroom. You learn in the classroom, and the games are your test.
Coach, to help the parents and the moms out, because we got a lot of moms out here. They want their kids to get better, and dads. You know, I'm not leaving the dads out. Coach, and you said skill work. Give me a number of how many hours a week. Give me a number, because I mean, you know, it's just 24 hours in a day. So give us something, you know, not necessarily concrete. Just give us a broad overview of, look, if you do this skill work this time if you do this, and now you're gonna play this many games, you got to do. What's the ratio, Coach?
It's the time element.
Okay.
Okay, like during the summer, you're playing AAU ball.
Okay.
Okay, or travel ball. Okay, you should have at least minimum 2 or 3 days of skill work in with your AAU practice and your games.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I've done my skill work for 2 weeks. Now I'm going to go just play games. It doesn't work like that.
Okay.
It doesn't work like that. You have to continue to do it. You have to continue to do it. If you don't, you're never going to reach your full potential with your skill work. You don't learn skills by playing games. Gotcha. You learn your skills with a skill development teacher, and then you go play your games, and you take what you've learned from your skill instructor to the games.
Coach, what if
I go see my kids?
I'm sorry. What if a kid can't afford skills instructors?
You know, as a person, I will work with my parents. I'll just put it like that.
I got you. Okay.
If someone comes to me and says, Coach, you know, you know, I'll work with them.
Okay.
I'll put it on the table like this. Don't use money as a reason for not getting him or her skill work.
Wow.
No, don't use money as the reason to not do.
I like that one, Coach.
Hey man,
I like that one, Coach. Because I know some people out there want that answer and want that answer. I just can feel it, and because it's they don't understand. They really don't know. You know, we got people telling them this. It's best to do this, and it's best to do this. Now y'all got wisdom here. Now you got to go and take this wisdom and apply it. And I thank you so much, Coach. I mean, and Ken Howell said, "Hey, Coach." Ken Howell, he said, "What's going on?"
It's a blast from the past.
Yeah, bad man there. Yeah,
indeed.
So what else you got?
Coach, somebody asked you how you mentioned earlier about in your classroom. You said as far as the high school kids, and you take tough kids. You don't take no soft kids. Don't bring no soft kids to me.
No, that was when I was coaching.
Yeah, the colleges, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the college.
When I was college coaching.
Okay. So now here's somebody just asked, Lord, right on cue. A parent asked, what are some ways that a parent can toughen their kid, can season that meat, or tough kids are just born like that? Was basketball.
One of the toughest things that there is to make a soft kid hard, mentally or physically. Okay. Now you can make them tougher. You can make them tougher to a certain extent, depending on. It's just like if you coach. I've been told this all my life. If you are an aggressive player, you're going to coach aggressively. If you are a passive player, you're going to be a passive coach. Now, when I say a passive coach, that's not one that's ranting and raving. That's one with his hands folded and give them a dirty look now and then. They're a good coach, but you've got to be yourself. You've got to be yourself, or people will see right, and your players will see right through you.
And you got to be yourself. And of course, I see a lot of the people we mentioned about the class, the people in the Facebook feed and on the YouTube feed as well with the questions galore. YouTube has about 4 more questions before we really land the plane. Want to get all these into your coach. And one of them asks, what do you look for in a player, right? In order for you or your staff when you were in college, when you were coaching, what did you look? Because different coaches, there are different strokes for different folks. When you went out and watched the player, the prospects, of course, your assistant coaches went out first, and they would bring you in. Explain to people the pecking order as to first, what do you look for in a player? What was your style, your brand, your flavor, and explain how the pecking order goes. Most of the time, when the head coach is present watching the game, what has probably transpired in that staff to get you to be courtside versus just the assistants only?
There's a bunch of answers to what you're saying, but the 2 main things that I told my assistants, don't bring any soft kids, mentally or physically, okay? Then skills, then knowledge of the game, and then all the other things come in, body language, all of that kind of stuff. And, believe it or not, parents, coaches are watching how you react in the stands when these college coaches come. Don't be going nuts in the stands in the college. Whose parents are those? That ain't gonna help matters. I don't care if you're an All-American. They're gonna, if most parents, know, but you can't be going nuts in the stands and making it look good for your son or daughter. You got to have all those are the main things that we look for. Then you get into, they got to have the schoolwork. They got to do the schoolwork. Though you check, one thing that I'll say real quick about AAU teams. There are some really good AAU teams and some really good teams that you can go, coaches that coach those. Steve Trauber, who I can't remember the name, it's one of the better ones in the city there in Houston. He did it the right way, okay? When they went on trips, he would take tutors. He would take tutors for those kids, okay? If you're an AAU coach, how hard would it be to give them one thing every time you go on a tournament? Write a 1-page essay on how this tournament went and how it went for you. Have the total. If you're going to be the total picture, have the total picture. And Steve always did that with his group. And when you got one of his kids, it was the whole deal. Now, on the flip side, high school coaches, don't think that college coaches, just because you're an AAU coach or just because you're a college coach, they're going to check with both. But when it got down to it, we checked with both, but we would check with the high school coach because AAU coaches have nothing to do with their academics. They don't have to check to see if they're in classes. They don't have to check to see if they're turning the work in. They don't have to check to see if they're being a knucklehead in class. The high school coach knows all that.
Hey man, that's good. And coach, how think about it. How hard, just grassroots coaches out there. And that's a question that we can't let that just go over your head. How hard would that be, really, to just make your kids? You're going back. Think about it. Either you're traveling back in a van, or in the vehicles, or you're traveling back via airplane, and the kids aren't driving, nor are they flying. How hard would it be to just get to write an essay? I mean, they can type it in their notes section of their cell phone. They don't have to physically write it, because a lot of kids, it might say, well, the pen, they can't write good. And all of them can't write anyway because they grew up in this age. They use typing. But it could help. It could help them in comprising an essay. And you know me, I'm really, really passionate about, in the same sense, Coach, I've taken a little further, and you can take this one back and implant that in Alabama to a lot of the grassroots programs around you. How hard would it be for the grassroots coaches when they making their schedules for 2021? How hard would it be to take out that one Saturday morning and, just like you have a practice, make that for your upperclassmen, to take the SAT or the ACT? How hard would that be? You know, because it's like you raise money to go on that trip, you can raise an extra $40, $50 for they take that one test. At least it lets the kid know where they are. At least it takes the fear out the way of the unknown of taking a test that you can't necessarily pass or fail. You can it's judged on the score. That's something to think about. I'm loving the Nuggets, Coach. Loving it.
Hey, let me say one thing. One thing real quick. I know you gotta go, but tuning in to y'all, when you're a coach, you want to go get kids that are passionate for the game. And tuning into y'all, you know, I'm in most of the time in Alabama now, but we do have our home on Lake Conroe that we go back to. To see y'all do y'all's deal with the passion that y'all have for the players. You might be getting on one player, you know, don't, I heard this the other night, is that don't blame the performer, blame the performance. And understand what that means, what y'all were talking about, Westbrook and them, or whoever you're talking about. When you say something, you're not coming down on the person. It's their performance that you're coming down on, good or bad. So, you know, don't come down on the player, come down on the performance. And I think a lot more people will, and I'm not talking about y'all, I'm talking about
No, it's
everybody.
good though, Coach.
Whether you go to a high school game or whatever, in general.
And Coach, what are your thoughts about a player playing up in grassroots?
If he can handle it mentally and physically, do
How
it.
can you tell though? How do you know until it's too late?
First of all, the kid will let you know by his expressions. If he's not fast enough, if he's not strong enough, as soon as that head goes down, he's not ready. He's not ready. Most of the time when they feel like they're not ready, it's because of strength or quickness or both. But there's a lot of youngins out there that'll go bite your head off to play against upper echelon. Those are the ones you want playing. Give the younger ones a chance if mentally and physically they can handle it.
Wow.
And thanks, Coach Leah. She said would be willing to help grade or give feedback, which is constructive, from the players' road trip weekend tournament essays. And she posts her website on the Facebook feed.
Hey, Jimmy, think about this. You go on a trip during the summer, how many of your kids' parents are teachers? Let them come in and talk to them. Let them, okay, an English teacher. Okay, we're going to have fun. We're going to have fun. I want you to write a letter. I want you to write a 3/4 page or a page. That's all. That's all I want on what you got out of this tournament. What did you get out of the last game? What about being in New York City? What do you think about New York City? And now you've got a legit teacher talking to them and going over their papers. Think about how many kids' parents that are on the trip are teachers.
I mean, that's a good thought. And those are what we call solutions.
That's great.
And that's the thing, because a lot of times we hear the problems all over the place. People, this is a problem. Well, solutions is what you've provided along with the Nuggets, and that helps to eliminate the excuses. And we understand a young lady just volunteered herself to help some of your kids, if that's the way, because that's right. They write those essays. Somebody will have to read them and grade them. Yeah. And so that you mentioned another solution, Coach. A teacher in your program can do that.
And look
what you got
happened, Jimmy. Let me show you something else that happened. When Coach Leah offered that, B. Scott says she's willing to help with the standardized testing or the writing with the math. This what this stuff is about, man. This is community coming together that help us and help these kids. Unbelievable. Shout out to those women, B. Scott and Coach Leah. Thank you so much. And Coach, thank you for triggering it. Coach, thank you for being the match that lit the fire, Coach.
Hey, thank you for getting me on Skype. just when I learned Zoom, I got to learn Skype.
Hey, that's a good. Hey, Coach. Hey, Coach. We have a grassroots coach that has a question for you. Okay. He say, is it wrong for him as a grassroots coach to have a mandatory 3.0 GPA for the kids to play in this organization? Is he wrong for that?
I'll answer him real quick. For every rule you put in, you got to go by it. Okay? That's a great rule. That's a great rule. And he's going to miss some kids that ain't going to have that. That's not going to have that. Okay? But you can have one rule or you can have 38 rules. But if you have a rule, you got to enforce them. Period.
I like that. Coach, hey man, your last thoughts. How can they get in touch with you for more people have questions or want
my to email? Well, you can go to my website, which is ronniearrow.com. That shows some of the drills we do with our kids and some interviews. But my email is ronniearrow@gmail.com.
Wow.
And in case you didn't know, yes, this is Coach Ronnie Arrow, former college coach. Remember guys in Houston area, Great Houston may remember him from his days. He coached a decade at San Jack, whereas during that time at San Jack, they won 10 conference titles, right? And 3 national championships at San Jack. San Jack was the shiznit. How do you say back in the day? The shiznit. Them youngsters. Like that's some old school. And
I wish they still had the program.
Man, I certainly wish it did as well. Do you think they would ever bring it back, Coach?
No. I just wish they would have done this. Contacted some of us to see if we could have raised the money that they needed to keep it going if that was the issue. And give it a chance, because there's a whole lot of tradition at that school in sports, period, but men's basketball, a whole lot of recognition. Got a lot of recognition for the school too.
And once again, you guys make sure, if you hadn't done so already, share the show. We come back on tomorrow and continue the conversation, but don't let the conversation stop right here. Take some of these nuggets and immediately apply them somewhere. If you're a grassroots coach, a developmental trainer, a high school coach, parent, and or relative, this is some good stuff. You can go back, share the show with somebody, go back and watch it again and get what you need. Make sure also go to the website, RonnieArrow.com. That's Ronnie Arrow, like the bow and arrow.com. And go to that website and check it out, read it, get some of his nuggets, more nuggets, and more about the classroom, which is where he works out and does camps for the young people nowadays. And that's his angle. Remember, as Coach said, the parents, he made a conscious business decision. Parents would love him being a developmental in these camps. Yeah. They won't love him being a grassroots coach. And that's the risk versus reward.
I'm going to get back with you. When we are able to have it back in Conroe, I'll get back with you.
Okay.
Absolutely, man. Let us know when you're coming in town. Well before time. Now, don't wait till the week of, so that we can let people know and they can get a chance to go out and meet you.
Two of the great mysteries in the world. Does Jimmy have hair, and how many hats does he have?
Hey, and that's one of the things I was gonna do as we get ready to slide down Dino's back and Yabba Dabba do this thing. I'm gonna go on and tip my brim to Coach today, because Coach for some reason think I don't have up here.
My man.
Coach, got a little bit up there, Coach. I'm all right.
Coach, he got a little
I'm
taste.
all right.
There it is.
He got a little taste up
I'm
there.
all right, Coach. Hey, ain't no Karl Malone or stuff up here. That's the real deal. All right. I got a little dough man up there. Got some peach fuzz. Anyway, guys, thanks so much, Coach. On behalf, of course, Coaches Ronnie Arrow, guys, you guys give him an applause on the other side of your computer screens. Great convo today. Thanks to everybody, YouTube and Facebook, for keeping this thing live. We'll be back in 22 hours on the Chop Shop. Women Rock Wednesday.
Jimmy, tomorrow, right? It's going to be a whole lot, because it's a lot of topics we didn't talk about. Coach was so great today. There's a lot of topics about summer and grassroots basketball. We're gonna hit that after we get talking about the Rockets tomorrow. So we're gonna hit that tomorrow. So I know some people are talking about that right now. But now you can go and end the show, Jim.
Yeah, man. We left so many topics, NFL topics.
Yes.
We didn't talk about tomorrow. We'll talk about some of those tomorrow. NCAA topics, of course, including Rice having to stop their football workouts because of COVID-19 situation with that program. We'll talk about college football team having to postpone a game extra week already. Kentucky Derby talk. We talk that tomorrow. The tennis, Serena is in the round of 8. She studied. I mean,
Deshaun Watson got paid. I mean, we got so much to talk.
He got a bag, and guess what? And we're gonna set out. We're gonna tomorrow. Women Rock Wednesday. Hannah and myself, we're gonna set the over and under for how long you think it's gonna be.
Don't you go there,
before
Jimmy.
that ring.
Jimmy.
Oh, that ring come out his pocket. As Mahomes, it only took what? 5 months for 4 months for Mahomes. How long would it take for that ring to come out of the pocket of Deshaun Watson? Because you know what? His girlfriend, she lives in H-Town.
Jimmy, Robert, y'all keep y'all's passion.
All right, baby. We'll
Appreciate
see you
it,
later,
Coach.
Coach.
See you guys, man. We up out of here. Peace. Chop, chop.
All right.
Jim Hicks, Rob Hatter. You are now tuned in to the Chop Shop. I'm Retro. Let's get it. We in the Chop Shop. We live in the Chop Shop. We talking sports talk. We live in the Chop Shop. We in the Chop Shop. I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up. It's live in the Chop Shop. We in the Chop Shop. We live in the Chop Shop. We talking sports talk. We live in the Chop Shop.